All right, once again, want to bring you that which the president tweeted some 6-7 minutes ago. For the second time, we're reading it to you, but it is important. I hereby demand, and will do so officially tomorrow, that the Department of Justice look into whether or not the FBI, DOJ infiltrated or surveilled the Trump campaign for political purposes, and if any such demands or requests were made by people within the Obama administration. All right, I've got a big panel to talk about this. Democratic strategist Don Calloway, CEO of Pine Street Strategies, MSNBC political analyst Jonathan Alter, columnist for the Daily Beast, conservative commentator Carrie Sheffield, national editor at Accuracy in Media and the founder of Bold, Republican strategist Susan Del Percio, and staying with us here on the broadcast, Joyce Vance, former U.S. attorney, professor at the University of Alabama School of Law, and an MSNBC contributor. Okay, Joyce, you did outline just before the break, and I'm going to have you do that once again as to your thoughts about what the president is able to do and not do relative to this tweet. But Carrie, reaction from you in that, is this a sign that the New York Times report has struck a nerve with this president? And is there any room for you to understand the questionable optics of this meeting, even if nothing was acted upon? And then subsequently, this tweet.
Sure. So, well, the president made remarks, I would expect in response to this reporting, to say that, again, Inspector Mueller appears to be going beyond the confines of his initial purpose for his investigation, which many conservatives like myself initially supported, but appears he's going far beyond the bounds of his duty. And as far as the president's tweet right now, there is considerable evidence that the FISA warrant, the FISA court, and this entire, as he likes to say, witch hunt, it began at the behest of the Steele dossier, which was unverified at the time, which was being paid for and financed by the Hillary Clinton campaign. And that disclosure was not made. Also, Steele at the time was leaking to the press, despite the FBI telling him not to. Also, unrelated, but also, I got to push back on your prior guest saying that DOJ is above partisanship. Loretta Lynch was saying, no, don't talk about the Hillary Clinton, call it a matter. Don't call it an investigation. That's partisanship by the Obama administration, plain and simple.
All right, here's the thing. When you say unrelated, then I'm going to start checking out because we have so much to say with when
it is related. It is related because it shows the partisan nature of the Obama administration's DOJ.
But specifically, Dawn, this tweet, your reaction to it and what the president is saying about what he intends to do tomorrow.
So much to unpack here. And here's the thing. Professor Vance was spot on when she laid out what the DOJ and FBI typically do and their historical nature about these investigations. However, if they did investigate the Trump campaign, it was because they had reasonable and actionable suspicion that the Foreign Contributions Act was possibly being violated by either cash contributions or in-kind contributions or by solicitations. So I would disagree that the DOJ is not entirely anti-political. However, if they did this, it was based upon a real, reasonable suspicion, tangible information. This stuff is coming out now that Trump Jr. met with UAE and other Middle Eastern interests. We knew 6 months ago that they did meet with Russia in the Trump Tower. What we don't know is what FBI and DOJ knew a year ago. And if they had information that would have caused an investigation, I fully welcome that investigation, because we want to know if the Trump administration, the Trump campaign, now administration, conspired, even sat down at the table and even thought about soliciting some type of support for those foreign agents to intervene in our American election.
And Don, just to offer the details, you mentioned the UAE. Yes, this emissary also representing the Saudi Arabia interests. And then there was also an Israeli businessman that had a social media platform company. Okay, Jonathan.
And the thing there, I'm sorry, the thing there is, if they did investigate, that's something that every American should welcome. We want them to look into that campaign to see whether or not they did. So that's the president being very undisciplined once again on his Twitter.
Jonathan, your thoughts about this tweet?
Well, you know, I think he figures the best defense is a good offense, because this was a devastating New York Times article. You know, Kerry just said that Mueller is moving far afield in looking into this latest meeting with Arabs and the Israeli operative. That's like saying if you're investigating the robbery of a credit union and you find out that, no, it was actually the robbery of a bank, not a credit union, that you can't look into it.
But Jonathan, the big difference is
Carrie,
zero.
you know what? Carrie, I'm not going to let you do this week.
Carrie,
you did this to me. You did this to me last week, and you're not going to do this to me again. Okay? You got to let me finish my sentence here. This raises really serious questions about collusion not with Russians, although these particular Arabs happen to be connected to the Russians, but with a whole new cast of characters. The intermediary is a guy named George Nader, who met repeatedly, not just with Donald Trump Jr., but with Jared Kushner and others in the Trump circle. George Nader is a convicted child molester who has been inside the White House. His fingerprints are all over these connections to foreign interests intervening in our election, which is flat out illegal. So the president is now panicked about this, and so he's trying to flip it, and he's very disciplined in his message about witch hunts, and he gets Amen Corner folks like Kerry to repeat his talking points, but that doesn't matter for Bob Mueller.
We're all not going to gang up on Kerry, but Kerry, I need you to let Susan, Kerry, please. I want Susan Del Percio, a Republican, fellow Republican, to react to this tweet. Your turn, Susan.
Well, I think that right now what Donald Trump is doing is once again trying to estimate or discredit, rather, the Justice Department and this investigation. That's what this is all about. Every time we read a story like we did today, we're 6 months behind Robert Mueller. We don't know exactly where Robert Mueller is today because we know where he was 6 months ago. He's done this investigation. I'm fine in letting him finish out his investigation as long as it takes, because unlike what the president said, nothing has been proven yet because it's only the president who has made these points. And I guess my question again, to Joyce would be, wouldn't Sessions have to recuse himself in something like this? So it would be then going?
You know, wait, actually, Joyce, I want you to come back and you guys, one more time, let's put the tweet up, and I want to read it one more time and have Joyce unpack it, break it down for us as you did, 7, 8, 9 minutes ago. I hereby demand, and will do so officially tomorrow, that the Department of Justice look into whether or not the FBI DOJ infiltrated or surveilled the Trump campaign for political purposes, and if any such demands or requests were made by people within the Obama administration. So share your thoughts again on all this. You had a two-pronged approach, Joyce.
So I think first, to respond to Susan's thought, it seems likely General Sessions would recuse from this. He's already indicated he won't participate in matters that involve the election, which this appears to, and that would leave Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein as the acting Attorney General for this matter. My previous thought was that it's both very unlikely structurally that DOJ and FBI could carry on a highly partisan investigation designed to damage a political campaign just because investigations aren't conducted by 1, 2, or 3 people. They're conducted by groups of people in DOJ and at the FBI. Those groups consist of people who are all over the political spectrum, and anyone who suspected that DOJ was wrongfully politicizing an investigation would stand up and cry foul. They would do that very loudly. There are mechanisms inside of DOJ that permit them to do that. It simply is too unlikely to contemplate.
So can then you please respond to, because not a single person on this panel has actually responded to my very first comment, which was about the Steele dossier, which was funded by the Clinton campaign.
I can do that.
Absolutely.
It has nothing to do with anything.
Yes, it does.
That has nothing to do with this
If I could respond to that, Kerry.
That was the
If I could respond to Kerry's concern, I'd be happy to talk about this.
Please do.
All right. Okay. Go ahead, Joyce.
I think it's important to note that the FBI doesn't just conduct criminal investigations. They also have a national security function. And we know that that's what they were doing here because they were involved in using the FISA process. So here's what the FBI's concern looks like. They were concerned that Russia was trying to influence people inside of the campaign. FBI wasn't investigating the campaign. They were trying to put an end to Russian action designed to compromise our security.
And so what about the
fact
how did they
that
do
they're
it?
investigating?
Kerry, can you let her finish,
she's
please?
Obfuscating the point.
Kerry, absolutely obfuscating
Kerry,
is
I'll
you.
be happy
Kerry,
to answer
let
your
her
question
finish,
if you'll
and
let
then you
me.
may.
Please.
Go ahead, Joyce,
So
finish.
It would have been possible for the FBI to convert this into a criminal investigation. There was certainly a lot of predication. They could have used wiretaps. They could have put an undercover agent in. They could have taken a step and sent FBI agents over to investigate people in the campaign. Any of these steps would have likely damaged the campaign. What did the FBI do? They took the least risky approach in terms of providing damage to the campaign. They sent in a source. The source talked to people on the campaign. It stayed hidden until long after the election. Far from being an effort to conduct a political investigation where they would have put this information out to the public in advance of the election trying to damage the Trump campaign, the FBI actually protected this investigation, withheld it from the New York Times, which ran an article just days ahead of the election.
All right.
That
Can I please
indicated
respond?
that there was
Because you're
no
really
there
not
there.
actually
Okay,
answering my
now,
point,
okay,
which
guys,
is-
here's the deal. Carrie gets to talk now, uninterrupted. I'm going to give you 45 seconds. Go.
Thank you. Okay, so she really didn't, she was explaining technical process. She was not explaining impetus. She was not responding to the fact, which is what Congressman Nunes has been pointing out, which is what that presidential tweet pointed out, which is what Comey has said, that the impetus, the genesis for this entire surveillance of the Trump campaign was coming from the Steele dossier. So when you're talking about sourcing, when you're talking about methods, you're talking about a source, the entire genesis of this was a partisan paid for by the Clinton campaign. So this is an incredibly...
If I could, Alex. Alex, it's
Okay,
important...
quick, Don.
Very quickly, it's important that we not completely detach legal process from the substantive underpinnings here. The Steele dossier was part of the information that went into the application for the FISA warrant, which is a very high legal burden to meet. It's a 1,000-page document that indeed disclosed that Hillary Clinton funded some of the Steele dossier information. But after reading that application, the judge still granted the FISA warrant, allowing for surveillance in certain aspects of that campaign. So yes, the Steele dossier is part of it, but a nonpartisan judge learned in the law looked through that and decided that there was still enough there to issue this FISA warrant. So you can't just burn it all down to politics and say that it was politically motivated.
Last word, Carrie, make it quick.
The issue is that this witness, Steele, he was not credible. So if the FISA judge is nonpartisan, is making a decision based on information that is not credible, that is part of the problem. And that is part of the valid criticism that the president is making, that this Steele source was not valid. And so the decision for the FISA application was made on flawed information.
Christopher Steele was one of the most respected intelligence officials in the entire world as the head of British intelligence, confirmed and has been confirmed by many people. So the idea that Christopher Steele is not credible is completely untrue.
All right, guys, listen, that has to be the last word right now. I'm going to thank you all. Gosh, that was so much fun. Dawn, Jonathan, Carrie, Susan, Joyce, guys, thank you so much.